race issues, culture issues. We've got gaslighting happening on all sides. To go through all of this, I have one of my favorite guests, Vance Ellison, to help me go through all this. Vince, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Stephen, it's always a pleasure to be with you and your great, beautiful audience.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I want to get your take. Well, actually, let me give some background for people that are maybe coming across you for the first time. You have one of the highest interviews on the internet with Tucker Carlson. You've authored Crime Inc., The Iron Triangle. You put out a successful documentary called Will You Go to Hell for Me? And you have a new book out called The End of Tolerance, which I want to talk about. But the first thing I want to jump in on, I think that this could be absolutely massive, is this new alliance between independent RFK Jr. and Republican Donald J. Trump. What were your first thoughts when you saw this come together? What are your thoughts now on how they might improve the country?
I thought it was massive. I mean, you know, he's Kennedy, number one. Number two, this race is so close. Anything can tip it. And you're seeing where he has about 5 or 6 percentage points in a lot of these swing states. And 1 or 2 points will do it for Trump. I mean, because we always know that Trump polls low anyway, right? In order to be equal with them, Kamala Harris needs to be 3-4 points ahead, and she's not there. Bobby Kennedy stepping over there and giving Trump another 4 or 5 points, hey, man, that's a knockout blow. And if they work this thing correctly, if Bobby Kennedy can get all of his people to come over to Trump, this thing's over with.
Yeah. One of the big catchphrases that has already started circulating is RFK Jr. said, "Don't you want to make America healthy again?" And I think all of us want that. You know, you've got children, I've got children. We want our children to be raised with good food, good medicine, good schooling. And yet we see how the Democrat Party has infiltrated the school systems. We also see how corporate America has infiltrated the Democrats. Can you tell my audience a little bit about how the Democrat Party infiltrated the U.S. education system?
Yeah, man, these guys started with Brown versus Board of Education, and everybody thought the Brown versus Board of Education was about race. No, after the Brown versus Board of Education was won by the NAACP, they needed an enforcement mechanism. And of course, that was the federal government. And that's how the federal government got involved in all of these city schools and county schools. They had to come in and make sure that segregation was not allowed. And when they got in, when they started doing it, they went crazy. They went and they took prayer out of schools. They went and started giving free lunches to children and controlling what they ate. And now they've gotten into LGBTQ. They've told children they've taken God out. They put the drag queens in. They took the Bible out. They put porn in. They've started saying that there's a virtue in LGBTQ and that it's a good thing, same-sex stuff. They've gone completely crazy. And when they slid in there, the teachers' unions took over public education. It is not the school boards. It's not the parents. It is the teachers' unions. And these jokers are stone cold psychopaths. I mean, anything that's far left. You got Randy Weingarten, who's a woman married to another woman. They press LGBTQ. They press atheism. They press pornography. They want to get parents out. And now, you know, they have this death cult that's going on in America right now. These people are actually involved in the depopulation movement. They believe that human beings are cancer. It's part of the whole climate change thing where they want to take human beings and say, and they want to take the human population back to about 2 billion people. This is why they press abortion. This is why they press LGBTQ. This is why they press all of this crazy stuff that's going on with the food and the vaccines and all of this. Believe me, if your people don't believe this, tell them to look up the depopulation movement right now, and they will see that George Soros and all these crazies on the left are part of it. They believe that human beings are cancer that is destroying the earth, and they want to take out as many as they possibly can. And they're using all the stuff that Bobby Kennedy is talking about as a means to an end.
Yeah. You've studied the Bible. I've studied the Bible. You've studied history. I've studied history. within humanity, you see these cultures where these religions or these cults, they do everything around human sacrifice or around fertility rituals, right?
Yeah.
And we saw the DNC, they wouldn't start the DNC until they had all of these abortions right there at the front doors, right at the gate of their temple, and men having their testicles severed as a fertility exercise. I mean, am I crazy, or is there some kind of correlation between this being like a weird murderous cult? It's weird to me.
I'm glad you brought that up, Stephen, because they put it out there for the whole world to see. They are not ashamed of it anymore. They are a death cult. They are, our Bible talks about sacrificing the children to Baal and to, the Molech. And this is what they are doing. This is why when you looked at that DNC convention, it looked like Sodom and Gomorrah. It was a freak show, man. And men in dresses, women taking hormones, people talking about killing their children, men talking about getting their testicles chopped off. I mean, it was crazy. And they acted like it was normal. They put it out there for the whole world to see. And the sad thing is that you had so many so-called Christians. This is what I deal with the Iron Triangle. Most black preachers, most black politicians, and most black civil rights organizations, they give some type of religious cover to these people. So when you see Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and a bunch of black greasy preachers out there standing behind all of this, people say, well, I guess this is covered by the Bible and it's covered by Christ. No, it's not. It's not. These are not real preachers. These people are cabal perverts, liars, psychopaths, and anti-Christian bigots. Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and any black preacher that says he's part of the Democratic Party is an apostate. They are blasphemous. They're liars. They're hypocrites. They're what Jesus talked about in the Bible, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, horrible individuals. And if you think that I'm wrong, look at where they rule. Everywhere they rule, from Detroit to Chicago to LA to Memphis to New Orleans, you name it. All you got is death, destruction, mayhem. Nobody wants to live there. You got to force people to live in those hellholes. People in Haiti and Africa don't even want to live there. They just want to go back home. This is the Democratic Party. And shows like yours are warning the population that a Democratic Party heaven is an American hell. Our birthright right now is at 1.6. We need to be at 2.1 just to stay where we are as a nation. We are dying right now. And they said full speed ahead. You know why? Because this is what they want. They are a death cult. And I hope that all of your listeners today realize that they got to cut these fools loose, and they better not vote for Kamala Harris and pervert, crazy tampon Tim Walz for president and vice president.
Yeah. Let me play a clip. It's about 2 minutes long, so forgive me, but I want to go through this. This is Kamala Harris, and she systematically tries to attack Donald Trump, but it becomes so obvious that she's talking about herself and Joe Biden. Let me run the clip with you.
This issue is about a vanity project for this president.
Right.
And it is a problem of his own making.
Right.
And listen, when I travel this country, folks have plenty enough problems that they need their president to focus on.
You know what?
Instead of a wall that, by the way, because I was a prosecutor for many years, including the Attorney General of California, I specialize on transnational criminal organizations.
Yeah.
That wall ain't gonna stop them.
No.
You don't need to build a wall. This is a crisis of his own making. And by definition, just plain speak, basic English language definition, it is not an emergency. What's going to end up happening is that he will end up, without any question, if he proceeds, we're going to be looking at a situation where, in particular, homeowners and landowners in places like New Mexico and Texas are probably going to look at government taking their land. We're looking at military resources being focused again on the president's vanity project instead of focused on real national security issues? It's the president's vanity project. You know, I mean, listen, if we deconstruct, get the pun, deconstruct wall. If we deconstruct the issue, you know, let's be clear, and again, let's just point to the facts and the evidence and the data. And the fact is that we are not facing a crisis. The crisis we're facing is a crisis of leadership. That's the crisis. That's the crisis. And a wall won't cure that. And a wall won't cure that.
He talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30-foot ladder.
All right. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, everything she said, the opposite has been true. Your thoughts, Vince?
Kamala Harris is a useful idiot used by the cartels and by the people that hate America, knowing that America is a bastion of Judeo-Christian values, a bastion of liberty and justice, and they hate it because of that. The cartels and these people are bankrolling her campaign, and they're doing it because the cartels make billions of dollars, not millions, billions of dollars, transporting illegals across that border and transporting drugs across that border. And they know that a wall will stop their enterprise. They know it. All of these cartels have law firms up in Washington, D.C. working for them. All of these law firms have lobbyists working for them. These cartels give these lobbyists millions of dollars to go up to Washington, D.C. and pay politicians to not build that wall and to do all they can to keep illegal immigration going because these cartels get paid. And when they get paid, these lobbyists get paid. And when these lobbyists get paid, the politicians get paid. And Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are part of that game. They are giving them millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. And they're funneling it through their lobbyists and through the fundraisers up in D.C. And this is why they will not build that wall. This is the reason why they will not stop this illegal immigration, and the reason why they allow all of this fentanyl, all these drugs, and all this mayhem to come across this border. It's too easy to stop. It is too easy. All you got to do is sign an executive order, send the National Guard down there. It stops in one day. They know it, but if they do that, their money stops. If they do that, they stop changing the culture of America, bringing in socialists and attacking the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant who they hate. These people have hated white Anglo-Saxon Protestants for the last 100 years. And they have said it loudly that they want to take them out. They hate Christianity. They see it as an affront to the abortion industry, to the LGBTQ industry, to the climate change industry. And if they can take out Christianity, they take out all of it. They don't have any opposition to their way of life. So right now, Ms. Harris and Mr. Walz, they are put in power, or they're trying to put them in power to make sure that that wall stays down. And if that wall stays down, the cartels get paid. And if the cartels get paid, America dies. So what do? We got to make sure that those two idiots never, ever sit in the Oval Office.
Wow. That was brilliant. I never considered the fact that the cartels have legal representation pulling strings in Washington, D.C. I mean, I knew that they're making more money than 99% of large companies out there. There is so much financial incentive to keep Donald Trump out, to keep child trafficking moving, women trafficking moving, drug trafficking.
Yeah.
I wanted to point out a few things that stood out to me from Kamala's rant. She says we don't need a wall. Obviously, we now know that we need a wall. She said protecting America with a wall is Donald Trump's vanity project. Well, hey, if that's his vanity, sign me up, because I want the safety of living in America that is safe. I want America safe again, right? And then we don't need a wall. We have a leadership crisis, she said. All of that is the opposite of what is true. Under Kamala Harris, we have a leadership crisis. Under Kamala Harris, we need a wall. Under Harris, her vanity has allowed 10 million illegals to flood into our country. So it's like whatever the Democrats are saying, they're doing the opposite of it. It's like this smoke and mirrors of don't look over there. Don't look at the crimes that we're committing. Don't look at how we're destroying America. It's all Donald Trump's fault. I saw a CNN panel during the DNC, and the guy said, I don't know how you guys can continue to blame Donald Trump. Democrats have been in charge 12 of the last 16 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of America's problems are actually Democrat leadership problems. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, we have to go back and understand who Kamala Harris is. Kamala Harris is basically an anchor baby. Parents came here from Jamaica and had on American soil, the first generation. When she became a citizen, of course, her parents also had to stay in America also. She grew up in Canada. The only claim to fame she has to the Black community is that she went to Howard University, which is a predominantly Black school, and a lot of people, Black and white, go to Howard University. And then she went to San Francisco and got involved in the politics that destroyed that city. She became the side piece of the mayor of San Francisco. He was Speaker of the House also. His name was Willie Brown. Willie was a philanderer. Kamala was 60. He was 60 years old and married. Kamala was 29 years old and a young lawyer, and she wanted to get ahead, so she started going around with Willie Brown. Willie Brown was married, being his side piece. She didn't care. After that, she's hanging out with Montel Williams, giggling and acting a fool. And Mr. Willie Brown, set her up inside of San Francisco, got her involved in the politics there. She became the DA in San Francisco and started helping destroy the most beautiful city in the world. Destroyed it. It's a cesspool now. Then she decides that she's going to run for Attorney General of the state. All right? Willie Brown helps her. She wins. Then she decides that she's going to run for U.S. Senate. All right. Up until then, Kamala told everybody she was Indian because she needed the Indian money in order to win these seats. And the Indian community supported her big time. Nothing wrong with that. The Indian community has done very, very well. And I applaud them for it. Well, then she decides that she's going to run for Senate. Well, what does she do then? She goes and finds herself a husband. And she wanted to find herself a rich one. And so she decided to get herself Mr. Doug Emhoff. Now, I've seen Doug. She didn't marry Doug for his looks, okay? They try to say he's a hunk, but he's not. But Doug was very rich, and Doug was Jewish. And the Jewish people in California have a lot of money. So Kamala she's got the Indian money, and now she has the Jewish money. And she's got enough money to bankroll her campaign because she knows that if she wins the Democratic primary, she's going to get the Black vote, and she's going to win. And she did. She beat Miss Sanchez. She became the senator from California. Well, then she wants to run for president. Kamala knows she's in the primary, and that Black people make up about 30% of the Democratic Party primary. She knows it. So guess what Kamala does all of a sudden? See, she turns Black. And she says, ooh, I'm Black, and I need the Black vote because she has the money now. Now she needs the Black vote, but she doesn't get it. Tulsi Gabbard walks up into the primary, destroys her in that debate. She drops out before an hour. But Kamala got a plan. So what does Kamala do when Joe Biden wins? Well, the George Floyd riots was going on, and the Black folks were kind of angry. So she had 100 Black men, prominent Black men, a bunch of thugs, rappers, and greasy preachers to send Joe Biden a letter telling him that if he did not put a Black woman in the spot for vice president, that they were going to deep six and destroy his campaign. So Ben Crump, Akon, P. Diddy, and a bunch of thugs sent him that letter, and Joe Biden capitulated and said, I'm going to pick a Black woman for vice president. And Kamala Harris watched that man lie and told everybody she was Black, knowing that she wasn't. Her daddy said he ain't Black. Her mama says she's not black. She's a red dot Indian. So Kamala rolls up in there saying she was black. Everybody took a word for it. But then when Joe Biden gets kicked, when Joe Biden decides she ain't going to run anymore, she decides to walk in talking about she's black. And that's when Donald Trump confronts her and says, well, you know, she was Indian until about 3 years ago. And everybody started checking and said, I will be damned. She lied. She's a Caucasian woman that slid into a black person's seat to get that job. And now you see she ain't talking about she's black anymore, is she? Because she knows that she's been called on it. And the press is still trying to gaslight people and trying to cover it up because they know she lied. In America, that's the worst thing you can do is lie about who you are. Because if you lie about that, you'll lie about everything else. She's a stone cold liar. She'll do anything for power. She'll do anything to get it. And a person like that has no right to be in the Oval Office of the United States of America.
Yeah. Whenever I do research on her prior to being president, she's always in cultural Indian outfits. Yeah. Whenever she's with her mom, she's always in cultural Indian outfits. So for me, I'm not black. I just look at it and go, oh, okay. She's Indian, you know, she has Indian heritage. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why, black Americans that are saying, wait a minute, maybe I want to vote for Donald Trump. They're actually very against her coming out saying that she's black because they're saying, wait a minute, you don't know what it's like to be black and you're stealing our racial identity and you're not representing our racial identity. And so from what I see, and maybe I live in an echo chamber on Twitter, but what I'm seeing is a lot of the black community, especially conservative black Americans, they're quite offended by her doing racial appropriation in order to trick people for votes. Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, man, we've always turned against that. When that Rachel Dolezal girl did it, everybody went crazy. You know, she was a white girl that acted like she was black and joined the NAACP and did all of that. We have this thing in the black community called passing, when very light-skinned black people try to act like they're white because they don't want to have to live the black experience with black people. And we always frown on that. I mean, that's like the only unforgivable sin that you can have in the black community is passing. Either passing for black or passing for white. Be who you say that you are. It's racial appropriation. Nobody likes it. It is a lie. It's being ashamed of who you are. It is a stain against you as an individual. If you're Jewish, be proud of it. You know, they talk about white supremacy, white supremacy, white supremacy. I say, you know what? And white privilege and all that. I say it is a privilege to be white, but it's also a privilege to be black. It's a privilege to be Jewish. It's a privilege to be Hispanic or Asian. It's a privilege to be an American. But be who you are because we learn from each other. I'm not ashamed of who I am. That's why when you see a Christian and they say, well, you shouldn't wear your Christianity on your sleeve. I said, that's the only way to wear it. I'm an heir of Jesus Christ. I'm a child of God. I'm not inferior to anyone. I can't be oppressed by anyone. Why? Because of the same reason. And you have Kamala Harris walking around here trying to say she's black. I've never seen her speak the name of Jesus anywhere. I've never seen her cook neck bone and greens and cornbread. I've never seen her be black. She comes to Atlanta. First thing she does is bring Megan Thee Stallion on stage. Megan Thee Stallion is the nastiest rapper in America. She come out there twerking, shaking her behind in front of everybody, talking about how good her you-know-what is. And people in the audience say, man, what the hell is this? If she had known the black community, she would have never done that. She would have brought out a gospel choir. She'd have brought out Stevie Wonder. She'd have brought out a good gospel singer like Tasha Cobb Leonard. Then she'd bring out Quavo from Migos, a rapper talking about gun control. Quavo been to jail 7-8 times, shooting, fighting, raising hell. And she thought that's what black people wanted to see. And the black community went off on her. She don't know us. She's a liar. And the thing is, Donald Trump is blacker than Kamala Harris. I call him the first black president. Why? Because he knows what it is to be black in America now. The Democrats set the hounds on him. I mean, they trumped up charges on him, lied on him, shot him. They said, yeah, Donald Trump is real, lived a real black man life in America. Kamala Harris hadn't done it. Hasn't lived not one smidgen of the black life. I was born in the Jim Crow South. My father was a sharecropper. I saw it all growing up. She knows nothing about being black in America. She might tell you about being Indian in America or being white in America, but being black in America, that girl need to go somewhere.
Yeah. Did you, speaking of Megan Thee Stallion, did you see that the way that they packed the DNC is they told a bunch of people Beyonce was putting on a free concert,
Mm-hmm.
and then Kamala shows up and they're like, "Where's Beyonce? Where's Jay-Z? Like we came for the music, you know. Like, I want to hear Beyonce. I like Beyonce, but like they lied in order to pack the stadium, and then people were furious, like." Hey, wait a minute, you guys, you lied to us to get us here. I want my free Beyonce concert.
Well, they know who their audience is, don't they? They know they don't want to hear about policy. They know they don't want to hear about the economy. They know they don't want to hear about world affairs, Ukraine, Russia, China, trade, tariffs. No, they want to see Beyonce shake our ass. That's what they want. They want to have Megan Thee Stallion up there twerking and shaking their head. I mean, these people are an insane asylum. You know, you had, 10,000 people there, and they came not to see Kamala Harris. They came to see Beyonce twerk. They call that a political rally or political convention, where you and I are saying, okay, where's the president going to stand on tariffs? Where is he going to stand on Ukraine? Where is he going to stay on where is he going to stand on the war in Israel with Israel and Hamas and Palestine right now? Okay. How is he going to get the economy going? How are we going to get inflation now? Oh, no. They want to see Beyonce twerk. That's what they showed up for. That's the Democrat Party, man. And that's why I tell Christians, y'all ought to be ashamed of yourself for hanging out with these people. I'm walking around looking at that thing, man. It's like the bar scene from Star Wars. Just crazy people everywhere. Men in dresses, women in suits, people with tats and piercings all over them. Jokers talking about I'm proud of my abortion. Drag queens walking around. I'm saying, what the hell is this right here? This is some type of, and you look at it, you're supposed to, if you have any type of morality about you, you're supposed to be turned off by it and say, look, I tell you what, man, I can't sup with y'all. Y'all a bunch of maniacs. Y'all a bunch of inbreds. It's like what happens, back in the old days when the royal families would do all that inbreeding, and finally the blood just gets so thin that everybody crazy, and everybody's afraid to tell them that they're crazy because they got enough power to get you killed. So you just kind of just be quiet and watch them do all this crazy crap, right? And you can't say anything about it. And you got to whisper to your friend, man, these people crazy as hell, you know that? And you say, yeah, I know, we can't say that, man. Let's just watch it. That's how the DNC is now. They're a bunch of inbred crazy psychopaths. They have put together a business model where the craziest people in America move to the top. And we got to sit back and watch it because the Pritzkers and the Disneys and the Soroses, they got all the money. And they have decided to get a cabal of perverts and liars to run one of the most powerful organizations in world history. It's a shame to watch.
Yeah. I keep seeing the poster behind you. Will you go to hell for me? I have a new documentary title for you. Will you sever your testicles for me? Like you can't come into the DNC unless we do that vasectomy, right? Like there's a rhyme there. There's a song there. Okay. I don't think he'll win just based off the math. But presidential candidate Cornel West says it's time to get real and create a council of truth to tell the American people the truth about COVID and the shots they tried to force on everyone. What are your thoughts on him coming out saying it's time for a council of truth? Like these politicians swim in lies and they force feed it down our throat. What are your thoughts on his comments?
I'm gonna tell you this, man. If you want to know about the contempt that white liberals have for black people, you look at the people they put inside of all of these leadership positions. Al Sharpton, Joy Reid, Cornel West. All of them are crazy. Cornel West done taught at Princeton, Harvard. Supposed to be like this philosophical, this great thinker. And he goes out there looking like a fool all the time, talking about some of the craziest stuff you ever heard in your life. And people are like, oh, yes, he is so smart. He's so smart. He's so smart. Cornel West is insane. There's no truth council going to come up about COVID. And if they do come up, the government's going to be the one funding it. If the government's funding it, you can't believe it. You can't believe anything the government says about COVID now. They're not going to admit to what they've done. They will never admit to it, ever. Because anybody that admits to it is going to have to go down. Anybody. If they wanted to talk about COVID, they should have talked about it then. But no, all of them were cowed. All of them were made to be quiet. All these big, brave people acted like a bunch of punks when it came down to telling the truth. All of these brainiacs. Now, years later, now they want to talk about it. You and I know when COVID was going on, this was a bunch of foolishness. And they would censor us if we said it. I got censored many times for just coming out and telling the truth. I would say it, and then I remember I was on Newsmax one time. I was on with Congressman Louis Gohmert. And me and Louis just talked about it for a little while. We got 16 views on YouTube before they took the video down 5 minutes later. Every time it was brought up, they take down the video. And instead of all of these great people, all of these people at Princeton, Harvard, and Yale coming out and telling these people at Facebook and YouTube to stop censoring content, to stop censoring the rights of the American people to talk about this. No. They jumped on the bandwagon. And now that everything's safe, they want to come and say, well, we need to talk about it now. Well, I guess you can talk about it now. I needed you in the fight when the bullets were flying, man. Not after we've already had a surrender of the enemy. So Cornel West and all of them, before I can serve them, go to hell.
Yeah. Why Donald Trump made this comment about illegal immigrants taking black jobs, taking American jobs, right? I think that's how he said it. And they jumped all over him, right? But like every job you fill out an application for, you have to mark, I'm a white Caucasian, I'm African American, I'm Hispanic Latino, I'm Asian, I'm other, I'm Eskimo. I guess I don't understand why they jumped all over him, because it's not like there are jobs only black people do, right? But there are jobs that people are coming in and taking. And so what are your thoughts on this? I just thought it was like they were grasping at straws, anything to connect him to being a racist.
Yeah, it's that. And it's also the fact that Donald Trump is telling the truth. Okay. New York City, black men out of work. 400,000 Venezuelans come up there. Joe Biden signed an executive order giving these 400,000 Venezuelans work permits in black areas, in Harlem, and in the low-income areas where black people live. And these Venezuelans then took jobs from black people. Whenever these illegals come up and they settle, they put them in the areas where black people live, and then they compete with black people for jobs. And that's what Trump was talking about. And what do? They drive down the wages because they're illegal. So they come to a job that might be a construction job, and the job might pay $20 an hour to a black man, giving benefits. You have to have OSHA standards, and you have to have breaks and all this kind of stuff. The illegal comes up and says, well, I'll do the job for $5 an hour. And the black man says, I can't work for $5 an hour. And so they give the job to the illegal and pay him undercover. And the black man got to walk around, can't feed his family, because these illegals have come in and undercut him for wages. That's what Donald Trump is talking about. Because he knows, and everybody knows, when you go to Chicago, when you go to Detroit, when you go to Philadelphia, black people congregate in these low-income areas. They do. We all know that. And they send those illegals right in there, right in those areas. And whatever jobs are there, they compete for them. Whatever rent, whatever apartment spaces are there, they compete for them. Then they go into the schools, and these schools are designed to hold 1,500 children, and then 2,500 show up, and they compete for space. And then the drugs come in and the crime comes in. And now up in DC right now, I read in the newspaper that the giant stores up there, they got 8 giant grocery stores up there. 7 of them have passed a rule that said that no minors can come into that store unaccompanied by an adult after 6 o'clock because they steal too much. Can't come in the stores. It's become a dystopia. And they don't want Donald Trump to help black people make that connection between Democrat Party policies and poverty that's in the black community and unemployment that's in the black community. They don't want him to make that connection. They want to always just call Donald Trump a racist. Well, I'm going to tell you this. I know what racism is. Racism is killing 25 million black babies in the womb. Racism is not Donald Trump saying, I believe in pro-life. Racism is Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Kamala Harris locking up thousands of black men in California when she was DA. And Joe Biden locking up millions under the Clinton-Biden crime bill inside the 90s. And Donald Trump, and it's not to be racist to do the First Step Act, but Donald Trump let thousands of black men out of prison and gave them a second chance at life. Racism is locking poor black children in failing schools and telling them that I don't care how much money you get, we'll never let you out. We're going to make sure you can't read, you can't write. And Donald Trump, not being racist, saying that I'm going to pass a school choice plan and a voucher plan and let these poor black children out of these schools so they can learn to read or write. Racism is continuing the Democratic Party plan to keep guns away from black men. This is something that they started right after the Civil War. They decided to disarm freedmen. And every time you find a large group of black men in a city, the Democratic Party says, let's disarm them. And then the drugs come in and the crime comes in and it turns crazy. And Donald Trump says, no. I'm going to let these black people defend themselves. Since the police won't come down, since these Democrat Party mayors have police departments that abuse these people, I'm going to let these people have guns so they can defend themselves against the police and against the criminals. See, you talk about who a racist is? The Democratic Party is the most racist organization in the history of the world. They have more black bodies on them than the Black Plague. They've always brutalized and hung and disrespected the black people, and they're doing it right now. Wherever the Democrats rule, and wherever you find a large group of black people that are being mistreated, they treat those people like dogs. And they don't want Donald Trump to bring up this fact and bring it to the attention of America and to the black community.
Yeah. I've had people on my show from Chicago, right? And they live in an area that is, birds of a feather flock together, right? So this is a predominantly black community. And this is an 8th generation foundational black American family. And they're saying they are flooding our neighborhood with Venezuelan gangs.
There it is.
They're taking over our YMCA. They're taking over our schools. They're putting 15 people in a house, driving up rent, and then a family that's trying to live off of a mom and dad's wage with 2 kids. They can't afford to live in their own neighborhood. And so these things are true. And yet, as soon as Donald Trump says them, he's labeled a racist. It's just, I just hate that because it doesn't allow for progress for the community. It actually continues to shrink it. And now they're not competing with white people for resources. They're competing with gangs from Venezuela for resources. It breaks my heart. It really does.
Well, here's a good thing. People are waking up. The last poll I saw was Kamala Harris was at 68% in the black community, and that Donald Trump was at 23%. And there was like 8% undecided. If that holds, she cannot win. She cannot win with 68% of the black vote. Joe Biden got like 92% of it and barely squeaked by, as you saw. I mean, he won 3 states by like 40,000 votes. If he had won those states, he would have lost. So if Kamala Harris stays at 68% of the black vote, she's done. See, These people are waking up to what the Democratic Party is doing. They've taken it too far. You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you ain't fool all the people all the time. And you have a young group of black people that are waking up, and they are not tied to the Democratic Party the way that their parents were. They want to see results, and they're not seeing them. And they are recognizing what this party is doing. I mean, when you got drag queens coming to the school shaking their asses in your children's faces, when you got these illegals coming in, when you have all these drugs coming in, these people are saying, no, man, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of being disrespected. I'm tired of being poor. When you when you're urinating down a person's back and tell them that it's raining because you say that, things are better now than they were 4 years ago when Trump was there, and the person knows that inflation has taken such a bite out of their monthly income. You know what? They said that the average family is paying $1,200 more a month now for basic needs than they were when Donald Trump was president. These people aren't buying it. Now, you're going to have some people, black and white, that are so tied to the Democratic Party that if it was choking them to death, they'd kiss it with their dying breath. But there are some that are waking up, and they're saying, I'm not taking any more of this. I'm tired of this. That's why I wrote my book, The End of Tolerance. How long are you going to tolerate these people killing your children, sexualizing your children, disrespecting you, telling you you can't pray to your God, taking away your right to keep and bear arms? How long are you going to tolerate these people allowing the internet to come in and turn your children away from your way of life, breaking up your home, putting the men in jail, castrating men? Man, but Steve, I was in the grocery store the other day, and as you know, I worked in a prison when I was a young man. I worked there about 5 years, and I knew a lot of intimate things about inmate life and working in men when I worked in the penitentiary. One of the things that I knew, a lot of people didn't know, is that there's a lot of homosexual activity inside the penitentiary, and there were a class of men in there that really did a lot of sexual favors, and these men had to wear diapers because of what the homosexual lifestyle did to them, and we kind of knew who they were. And so as I started coming out into the world, when I go to the grocery store, I see these young men buying diapers all the time. And a lot of people thought they were buying them for their elderly, for the elderly in their home. I said, no, they're not. This thing is getting to be very, very pervasive to a point where I'm just seeing young men buy these Depend diapers all the time. I was in the store the other day. I was looking for some razors, and I just happened to glance at some Depend diapers. And these diapers actually had the picture of a young man, not an old man, a young man in his 20s on the cover. And it was a young black man, and then they had another, a young Asian man. And I'm saying now they are actually marketing these diapers to young men like they are women, like they're feminine napkins and women, because this lifestyle has become so pervasive in the young male community right now. This is who these people are. And you have people waking up to the fact that that these old Democrats are turning their sons into something they weren't meant to be, that they are applauding this activity now, that they are actually not just applauding it, but they are pushing them to it. And our Bible tells us that we're supposed to rebuke this. We're supposed to rebuke it. The first line in my book, the End of Tolerance, I'm going to read it to you. I said, in the Holy Bible, Ephesians 5:11 commands that we take no part in the worthless deeds of evil and darkness. Instead, expose them. We're not to take any part in them. We're to expose them and tell people what's going on and say, this is what they're doing to your children. You have the ability to stop it. If you do not stop it, you are a part of it. You are tolerating it. And this gentleman by the name of G.K. Chesterton said, tolerance is the virtue of the man without conviction. We look at these people and we tolerate this behavior, and they told us that tolerance is a virtue. The great Billy Graham said that tolerance is a sin. Our Bible tells us tolerance is a sin. Just like pride is a sin. But they've convinced us that to tolerate them sexualizing our children, tolerating them not allowing us to pray to our God, tolerating them to take the Bible out of our schools and put pornography into our schools, tolerating allowing grown men to go into the bathroom with your wife and your daughter, demented grown men to watch them urinate, to tolerate allowing grown men to participate in sports with your daughter. There's some type of virtue in that. And I say no to it. And that's what Kamala Harris and his pervert waltz, that's what they stand for. And it's time for all men to stand up and push this back, or admit that you're not a man, put on the skirt, put on some makeup and some rouge, join the LGBTQ movement, and be part of the Democrat Party.
Yeah, no, I think men need to take a stand. I think you're absolutely right. The end of tolerance here, I just want to show to people so that they can go pick that up. I think you're absolutely right. We've put up with too much for too long. And I do feel like the pendulum is starting to swing back, of going, wait a minute, we've allowed this to take too great of a hold in the school systems and in the media and in Hollywood. And I do think that things are going to push back. Vince, why, Kamala Harris wants to become president of the United States of America. She wants to defend our country against military enemies. She's got to go up against Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, the Ayatollah of Iran, Vladimir Putin of Russia, and she won't even debate Donald J. Trump. How are we supposed to trust that she's going to keep America safe if she won't even debate her opponent in American politics?
She can't, and she won't. The left has a goal. It's always been their goal. Their goal is to destroy America. And I'm not talking about like dropping an atomic bomb on it. I'm talking about to destroy the character of America, and they do that by destroying Christianity. She and her stupid people on the left are going to continue until they probably start World War III with Putin and Xi Jinping. The Washington Post did a story, I have it written here in the End of Tolerance. The first chapter talks about how the left might start World War III with stupid Kamala Harris, because they keep pushing this Western ideology of climate change, abortion, and LGBTQ further and further east. And as you know, Vladimir Putin has told them no further. He started a cultural cleansing of his country, where he's putting all these LGBTQ people in jail. He's trying to get women to have 5 and 6 children. And so he's trying to stop abortion and birth control. And he said, to hell with climate change. We need energy in order to grow. So he's using his gasoline and he's selling it. And the left is trying to stop all of that. The left is trying to press atheism over into the east. And the Russian Orthodox Church is saying, no, we're not having it. When they tried to press this stuff over into Ukraine, it was one of the catalysts and one of the reasons why Vladimir Putin decided to invade. And these fools over here in the West, we had this thing called we had a program to stop AIDS in Africa. The Bush administration started called PREFAR, and the Biden administration came in. This program saved 25 million lives in Africa, and they was giving billions of dollars a year to stop AIDS. Well, the Biden administration comes in and finds out about this money, but he understands that a lot of the African countries that get this money are not allowing for abortion, LGBTQ, and climate change. And they started tying that money to whether or not you accept LGBTQ, climate change, and abortion. And a lot of these African countries started pushing back. And guess who came in to fill the void? Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. They said, you don't have to take that American money anymore. We'll give it to you. And so you have China that is trying to turn around their culture because they were dying because they had that one-child rule for so long. And now they're trying to get their people to stop having abortions and have children. And you have the West still trying to press this LGBTQ, climate change, abortion agenda on these nations. And these nations have started calling America satanic. And they've started calling us a death cult. And you got the people on the left, Kamala Harris and Waltz, still pressing this, and they want to use all the power of the United States of America to press this agenda worldwide. And if they keep on doing it, these nations are going to fight back, and we're going to be involved in a World War III because Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping don't play, and they got thousands of nuclear weapons, and these people on the left are insane. Insane. So we have a bunch of insane perverts in charge of a nuclear arsenal, and they are not hell-bent on spreading democracy and family and Judeo-Christian values. No, 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 no. They're hell-bent on spreading atheism. They're hell-bent on spreading LGBTQ, climate change, and abortion. It's like we have switched sides with the old Soviet Union of 1917. We are pressing an agenda that, if accepted by the world, will destroy it. And this is why we got to kick these bastards out and take our government back. Because if not, we're on a collision course with the rest of the world.
Yeah, yeah. You've become good friends with Tucker Carlson. You are one of his biggest interviews as you expose things about Martin Luther King, about the Democrat Party, the Ku Klux Klan, many other areas that most people are not really familiar with. Recently, Tucker had RFK Jr. on for an interview just a couple of days ago. And he mentioned that Donald Trump had told him how much pressure was placed on him to not release the final JFK assassination records because it would be too much for the American people to hold. He then exposed that it was former CIA Director Mike Pompeo who was leading the charge on this pressure campaign against Donald Trump. They're now saying, if we get in, we're going to release this. The American people need to know the truth. What do you think the government is hiding? Like, it's been 60 years. Are they that guilty that they would rather continue this lie than tell us, yeah, we killed a president because he didn't do what we like? What are your thoughts on this story?
Yeah, you can't trust anything that was happening back then. It was a weird time. Weird time. The communists and the Comintern had infiltrated the American government to an extreme. You had some dead enders that were in our government that wanted to take communism out. They wanted it out, and they wanted it out fast. And when Fidel Castro took over Cuba and made it a communist nation, these guys said, hell no. They wanted to invade. They wanted to take him out. They wanted to kill him. In their minds, to not do that was the equivalent of your wife bringing another man in your house and him sitting there drinking your beer, eating your food with his feet on your table. That's how they saw it. They said, no, he's got to go. And JFK made that deal with Russia that if they moved the missiles, he'd never invade Cuba. And to a lot of people, they said that was a bridge too far. You had a communist nation in the Western Hemisphere. To them, that was sacrilege. That was complete sacrilege. Nobody does it. And it's like they said we can stomp Cuba like stomping an ant. It's no problem to take out Cuba. They invade Cuba and kill Castro. Why would you make such a deal? And of course, you know what they said. We believe in the communists. And then when he pulled the plug on going into Vietnam, they want to take out Vietnam too, as you know. And he said, no Vietnam either. They said, okay, he's got to go. That's what I've heard. And that's why. And then when, of course, they took him out, LBJ went full-fledged into Vietnam. And you already know what happened there. From what I have read, from what I understand, that was the whole deal behind it. And our government was in full-fledged Cold War mode. We was in full-fledged, the communists are not going to come over here. They're not going to take over our nation. Anybody, a president or anybody else that gets involved in stopping that, we'll take them out. When they started seeing that MLK had decided to go more Marxist and more communist, a lot of people said that was a driving force to make them take him out. They were full-fledged, 100% anti-communist. If they had a smell that you were communist, you were out. And, you know, the Vietnam thing, the Cuba thing, the Black Panthers and Martin Luther King Jr. here in America, Oh yeah, they were in a panic mode, and they were taking out people left and right that they even considered were involved with the Comintern and with those guys over in Moscow.
Yeah. Okay. Final topic that I want to go through with you. This has been awesome. So it came out a couple days ago that the Biden administration was heavily pressuring Facebook to suppress speech, remove COVID information, even if it was true, censor Biden's political enemies. Mark Zuckerberg also admitted in a letter to Representative Jim Jordan that he was pressured to spend $400 million on the 2020 election during COVID. He was told that money would be evenly split to push forward democracy and free elections. Instead, the Democrat Party took 90% of that money and flooded swing states and swing cities in order to select and place Joe Biden and remove Donald Trump. What are your thoughts on Mark Zuckerberg admitting all of this in a letter to Representative Jim Jordan?
There it is, man. You know, you and I knew it was going on back then. We said it. We talked about the Zerka boxes and the drop boxes that he set up down in Georgia. We talked about how they use COVID as a means to an end to do ballot harvesting and to do drop boxes and to do mail-in ballots and basically still a campaign. They still won't admit to what they've done. They did it for one reason and one reason only: to keep Donald Trump out of office, because they knew they wouldn't have been able to get that Green New Deal passed. They knew that they wouldn't be able to expand our federal budget from $4.5 trillion to over $7 trillion in 1 year and keep it there. They knew that the war in Ukraine would not have happened. They knew it. They knew that the war in Palestine would not have happened. They knew it. These people aren't stupid. What you're seeing right now is what they want. You see, they got a pro-Hamas wing in the Democrat Party. Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. Yeah. Want to take out Israel. They knew it. You know, these people are who they are. Y'all not that queer for Palestine. I tell them, yeah, okay, yeah, you take a little queer behind to Palestine, see how long you stay queer for Palestine, all right? Because they'll kill you in less than 5 minutes once you get over there and tell them that you're gay. That's how crazy they are. But they have a terrorist wing of the Democratic Party. They got this crazy climate change wing where these idiots think they can actually control the weather. They got the LGBTQ wing where they said that you are supposed to be a genderless, mindless, ignorant beast. They got the atheist wing of the Democratic Party that says there is no God. Man is God. You might as well just say the whole dadgum thing is the insane asylum. And Stephen, you know what we're going to do? There's going to be a time in history where they're going to look back on this time and they're going to look at this part of the Democratic Party, the way they look at the same Democratic Party when they looked at the Jim Crow South, when they looked at the Confederacy, and when they looked at the antebellum South. And they're going to say, you know what? Those bastards were still crazy. They were crazy when they had the antebellum South going on from 1800 to 1860. They was crazy during the Confederacy, like the guy said in South Carolina. He said when South Carolina seceded, he said South Carolina is too small to be a state, to be a country, and it's too large to be an insane asylum. And then they showed how crazy they were during the Jim Crow era, just 100 years, raping, killing, castrating black people, and wouldn't let them vote. And now look at it. Bunch of psychopaths, man, trying to castrate children. Joe Biden passes a law, signs executive order saying that he don't want any limits, no age limits on sex change operations. What? He signs a executive order saying now that all schools that get federal money has got to let boys go into women's bathrooms. And boys go into women's locker rooms, and the Supreme Court put a hold on it. But yeah, he signed it. This is who we're dealing with. Rank insanity. And thank you for allowing me to come on your show today and highlight this for your viewers, so they can go out and they can share this, and they can go and tell their friends about it. And I want to tell them also, y'all, please watch my podcast, the Vince Everett Ellison Show, X, Rumble, and YouTube. I talk about these things every week. just like Stephen does. And we have to share this with, we have to go over NBC, ABC, CBS, MSNBC. This is the information. And you can fact check me and you can fact check